All right, Jabbo, say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Yud Gimel 13. We are picking up on Yud Beis, Amud Beis 12b at the two dots, which is 2, 4, 6, 8 lines up from the bottom. Amr Rabbi Shmuel Silber by Rabbi Yochanan. We'll say a very interesting sugya to start the day. The Gemara says, Katan yesh lo machshava o ein lo machshava. So we'll say, the interesting shaila over here, does a katan have what we call machshava, intent or not? Now, what does this mean on a practical level? If you look at Rashi, Rashi says over here in the second wide line in Rashi, Katan yesh lo machshava o ein lo machshava kigon b'shchitas kadshim debay kavana kilafilim b'shmaita. So, for example, Rabbi said, let's say when it comes to the shchita of karbanos, shchita of karbanos requires kavana. So do we say that a katan has proper kavana, has the ability to have proper kavana, or not? So says the Gemara, very interesting. Amar le Rabbi Abi. So Rabbi Ami says, Viti baile maisa. If you're asking if a katan has machshava, why don't you also ask if a katan has a maisa? Meaning, why don't you also ask if the maisa of a katan is halachically valid or halachically legitimate as well? Amrle Rabbi, so the Gemara says, Maishna Maisa de lo kami baile. So why is it that you didn't ask about the Maisa of a katan? Disnan yesh lahen Maisa. Because as we're going to see in just a little bit, we have a Mishnah that says that the Maisa of a katan is in fact legitimate. Machshava nami lo ti baile. So if that's the case, you shouldn't worry about, again, machshava either way. Disnan ein lahen machshava. Because you have a Mishnah that says that a katan does not have machshava. So I'll say, okay, so which Mishnah are we referring to over here? So watch, it's actually quite fascinating. This not. So the Mishnah says as follows. Ha'alon v'harimon v'ha'egos. So we'll say an alon is an acorn, a rimon is a pomegranate, and an egos is a nut. And in all of these cases, shechakakum tinokos lamud bahen afar. Now, boss, just imagine the following situation. You have a katan, you have a child who hollowed out one of these items, lamud ban afar. So we'll say, so a katan hollowed it out either to go ahead and use it as a measuring utensil, or he went ahead and hollowed it out in order to use it as one side of a scale. So we'll say, so bottom line, what you have over here is that a katan took the shell of something, whether it's a nut, an acorn, a pomegranate, it doesn't really matter, but the point is he did a maisa to clearly make this item into a kli. So what's the halacha? Tmein, mipnei sheish lan maisa. Ultimately, again, the kli, now when we say tmein, what we really mean is what? That the kli is ra'li lekabel tuma. The kli cannot be makabel tuma. Why? Because the katan, through his actions, made it into a kli. So what do you see from here? Mipnei sheish lan maisa. So we'll say, so you see that a katan has maisa. And if you look at the last Rashi on the daf, Rashi Yeshla Maisa, Kigon Zeh, Shema Asein Mochichin, the Lashem Klid Niskavnu. V'gam him Omrim Kin, V'yesh Kan Maisa Umachshava Hamoridin Obso Toroski. So we'll say, Rashi adds in a very important piece of information over here, which is, the case here we'll say is, it's clear from the katan's actions what he's doing. Right? It's clear that he's making this item into a kli. Now Rashi is also Mosif over here. What else? That the katan says that he's making it into a kli. So we have his maisa. We also ultimately again have his machshava, but it's not just the machshava; it's articulated through his dibur. So we'll say, see, even a katan could go ahead and render this item into a kli that is fit lekabel tuma. So says the Gemara, top of Yud Gemara Bosai, ve'in lan machshava. Ultimately, again, but a katan does not have machshava. So, for example, I will say, if a katan came across a hollowed out pomegranate, right, and the katan had in mind that this pomegranate should serve as a kli, so ultimately, again, that machshava does not make it into a kli. Now remember, compare that with an adult. If, let's say, again, a gadol, if I were to come across a pomegranate shell, and I were to say, I have in mind I'm going to use it as a kli, that machshava renders the pomegranate shell into a kli, and now is allowed to be makabel tuma. So ultimately, again, the machshava of a katan, that's what Rashi says, top Rashi, Gimel Medal, Vela machshava, ki go matza leklipas egos kimoshu, if he finds a hollowed out nutshell as it is, V'chashav aleh lamud, and he has in mind to use it as a measuring utensil, or afilu madad ba, or even if he actively uses it as a measuring utensil, ela shelo asa ba ma'isa l'shem kli. But the katan did nothing ultimately to make it into a kli. Then what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we'll say, so bottom line, what we have over here is as follows. Katan yeshlo ma'isa. If a katan does an actual act, a clearly bona fide act, and furthermore, again, he solidifies that act by verbally expressing his intentions, everyone agrees that the actions of a katan will be meaningful. If a katan just has machshava, everyone agrees that what? That is not meaningful. To which the Gemara says, we'll say top line, you're to give him Aleph. Machshava greidas kami boy. To which the Gemara says, he said to him, I'm not asking about stam machshava of a katan. We all agree that the stam machshava of a katan is meaningless. So remember again, the paradigmatic case of a stam machshava of a katan is, as we just said, the katan comes across a hollowed out pomegranate shell, and he has in mind that he's going to use it as a kli. That's the case of if stam machshava. Everyone agrees that that is meaningless. So watch this. Ki kami baile. Where's my question? Machshavto nikeres mitoch masov. Oh, we'll say, what about if you have a situation where the katan's intentions are clearly understood from the context of his actions, where intentions are expressed through dynamic activity? What's an example of that? Here we go. Kigon to have a kaima ola b'daram. So we'll say, let's say for example, the katan was bringing an ola. Katan was bringing an ola, and the ola, the animal itself, was situated in the south. Now, both said we know from our zvachim days that an olah has to be shechted in the north. So the animal was situated in the south. The katan then takes and actively leads the animal ultimately to the north, the shachta, and he shechts it there in the north. So I say, so what's the shaila? What's the status of that act of shechita? Do we say meda'asya b'tzafon v'shachta, since he brought it to the north and he shechted it there? So it's clear that's what Rabbi say. It's clear that he has kavana l'shem ola. Now remember again, in this case, has the katan articulated anything? No. But Rabbi say what he has done is, remember again, if he wasn't having any specific intent, what could he have done? What could he have done? Could have shechted it right where he found it in the south. The fact that he actively the fact that he actively transports it from the south to the north, so do we say that's a clear expression of his intent to offer up the Ola Lishma, O Dilma, or maybe the other possibility is, Makom Chudelo Isramile. We'll say maybe just the north was a little crowded, right? Or it was too sunny, or it was or he didn't like the guy standing next to him. Whatever the mitzvah is, maybe he just chose to relocate to the south, but there's not necessarily any kind of expression of intent. To which the Gemara says, Ha nami amra. Ha nami amra b'yochanan chadazimna. Truth is, also, we already learned this case as well. We'll say this is the case of machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asov, where there's no explicit expression of intent, but his intent seems to be clear from his actions. We already learned that once as well. Where did we learn that? Tisnan. Hama'ala peros. Listen to this interesting case. Hama'ala peros of lagag mipneach nima. So we'll say, I take my fruit up to my roof because of insects. So there's insects in the field. I want to take the fruit up to the roof. Now what happens? The yarad alehen tal. And I will say, now what happens when they're on the roof? So the dew comes down and falls on the fruit. So remember again, food items in general, fruit we'll call it right now, can only become a kabel tuma when there's an exposure to liquid. So now watch this. In this case, I took my fruit up to the rooftop for a very clear intention, which was to escape the insect infestation. Once it's up there, so the dew fell on it. What's talacha? Einon b'chi yutan. We'll say they're not makabel tuma. Why they're not makabel tuma? Why not? Why not? Because that wasn't my intention. My intention was not to take them up there for them to become wet. My intention was to take them up there to escape the insects. Therefore, if the dew subsequently falls on them, so you will say, without getting into all of the technicalities now, the halacha is that peiros are only mekabel tuma when coming in contact with a liquid if I had kavana for the contact with the liquid. If it happened by accident, like you're walking by my fruit and you spill your glass of water on my fruit, that does not go ahead and make them ra'i lekabel tuma. So in this case over, that's the chiyitein chiyutan drush, which we're not going to get into now. So the point over here is, if I clearly brought it up to the roof because I wanted to escape the insect infestation, it does, I don't know if that's a proper word, but it does, right? On the fruit, my fruit are not makabel tuma. Now watch this. Then this kavin lekach, Rabbi said at the end of the day, if I had kavana for this, in other words, if either, as Rashi points out, when taking the fruit up to my rooftop, or once they're already on the rooftop, I have in mind that I want the fruit to become wet, then einachinami, it is subject, then it becomes, then it's makabel tuma. Okay, now watch this. Here's the point for us, we'll say that matters. Cheresh shot of the cotton. We'll say, what if we're dealing with the cheresh shot of the cotton who are transporting the fruit? Afa pishin is kavlu lekach. So we'll say for the cheresh shot of the cotton, even if they had kavana, let's say the dew, whether before or after the dew falls, they have in mind that what? That they want the fruit to get wet. Ultimately, again, einon b'chiyutan. So we'll say it makes absolutely no difference, right? The fruit is not makabel tuma. Why? Mipnei sheyesh len ma'isa ve'ein len machshava. Because we'll say cheresh shot of the cotton, their actions are meaningful, but their thoughts are not. Their cognitive processes are not. So the fact that a cheresh shot of a cotton brought it up to the roof and then subsequently had kavana that it should get wet with the dew does not in any way render it, does not allow it to makabel tuma. Now watch this. So here's the important part. From Rabbi Yochanan, lo shanu ela shelo hibech bahen. So Rabbi Yochanan says that's only if, let's say, the cheresh shot of a cotton didn't turn the fruit over. They both said, why would they turn the fruit over? Because they wanted to get wet on the other side as well. Aval hipech bahen. They both say, if the cheresh shot of a cotton turn the fruit over, then what? Harei ze b'chi yutan. And ultimately, again, what Rabbi say, the fruit is makabel tuma. Why is the fruit makabel tuma? Rabbi say, why? Why? Because he did a maisa, right? He did a maisa, and this would be a case of machshava, machshavto nikeres misoch maisav, where ultimately, again, his thoughts, his intentions are clearly expressed and demonstrated through his actions. So we see from here that even in a case of machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav, we see that what? That halacha l'mais, even by a cheresh shot of a cotton, it works. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Here's the real question we were asking. The real question we were asking, I will say, was Doraisa or Dirabanan? I will say, our real question was, does this work Doraisa or Dirabanan? I will say, what does that mean? Look at Rashi. Hachi kami bari Doraisa Dirabanan. It's about, I'd say about 10 lines up from before the short lines end. Hachi kami bari Doraisa Dirabanan. Hadamiso v'shamati b'rabosai. D'machshavta mikares misoch ma'asav havi machshava. Kilu perish b'shas ma'isa. So we'll say, now that we've established that even by a cheresh shot of a cotton, machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav, the shaila is da'oraisa. Is this biblically true? We'll say, look at Rashi. Da'oraisi v'samchinon alo afilu l'kula kigo bayon deleel behavi ola midar l'tzafon. So we'll say, do we say it even biblically? Now what that means is, even biblically, Rabbi say, for example, let's say in a case of carbon, the case we saw before, where the Ola was in the south, and then what happens? The Katan moves it to the north. So Rabbi say, ultimately, again, do we say, Machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav, even mid'oraisa, and even if that results in a kula, or only dirabanan? Or for example, Rabbi say, we always say that dirabanan, for example, in the case of Kabbalah's Tumah, where he flipped over the fruit. To which the Gemara says, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak masni hachi. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak asked this a little bit different. Amr Reb Chia bar Abba, by Rabbi Yochanan. Katan yesh la maisa in la maisa. So we'll say this is an alternate version of the previous discussion. In this version, we begin by asking, does a katan have maisa or not? If a katan does something, Rabbi say, that is a clear act, a clear and defined act, is that act meaningful or not? To which the Gemara says, Amrli Rabbi Ami, Viti Barile Machshava. So Rabbi Ami says, why are you only asking if a katan has Maisa? Why don't you also ask if a katan has Machshava, as we said before? Maishta Machshava lo kami Barile. So we'll say, why don't you ask about the case of Machshava? Distan. Because we learned explicitly in the Mishnah, Ein Lahen Machshava, that a katan's Machshava, Rabbi is meaningless. Maisa Nami Loti Barile. Disnan. Yesh Lahen Maisa. So Rabbi say, Maisa, you also shouldn't ask why, because we explicitly learned before that what? That a katan does have Maisa. Rabbi say, this is the same case as before, where the katan goes ahead and hollows out the shell of the acorn, the pomegranate, or the nut. Rabbi say, you see clearly from that case that if the katan does a Maisa, he actively hollows it out and goes ahead and says that he's going to use it as a kli. That is a bona fide act that ultimately transformed this into a kli and allows it to be makabel tuma. Conversely, if the katan already finds the hollowed out shell and begins to use it as a kli, that's a case of machshava, that ultimately again is meaningless. To which the Gemara says, you're right. What are we really asking? What are we really asking? Hakikami vayale, daraisa or dirabanan. We'll say what we're really asking over here is, do these concepts apply daraisa or dirabanan? So we'll say, at the end of it, what the Gemara is asking over here is as follows. If we say, katan yesh lo maisa, or we say a case of machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav is valid, is that true da'oraisa? Or as we'll say, if you say something is true da'oraisa, the principle applies whether it produces a stringency or a leniency. Versus if you say that it only applies d'Rabbanan, then pretty much we only use it in cases where it produces a stringency, but not a leniency. So which one is it? To which the Gemara says, Rabosai, here we go. Here is the halacha lamaisa. Upashit yesh lo maisa va'afilu b'daraisa. So Rabosai, number one, katan yesh lo maisa va'afilu b'drabanan. Excuse me, va'afilu b'daraisa. Which Rabosai means what? That if a katan does something, a clear and defined act, and at least according to Rashi, he articulates his intentions for that act will be halachically valid. So I'll say, for example, in the case, it would seem to be in a case where the katan took the animal from the olah, from the south of the Beis HaMikdash to the north of the Beis HaMikdash, and he shechted it there. And he said that what? He said that I have in mind that this should be for an olah, that halacha l'maisa what? It would work. That's what it sounds like over here, that it would work. That's a case of yesh lo maisa, ultimately midaraisa. Ein lehen machshava, but Rabbi say a katan's machshava is meaningless, va'afilu midrabanan. Rabbi say even midrabanan, a katan's machshava is meaningless. So Rabbi say, so for example, where would that come up? Katan finds the hollowed out shell of a pomegranate, begins to go ahead and use it as a utensil. That's a case of machshava. It's a case of machshava, and it's meaningless afilu midrabanan, which would mean what Rabbi for our purposes. What's the status of that shell? It's not makabel tuma. Okay. Case number 3. Here we go. What about machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav? Rabbi say, what about a case where his machshava, his intention, is clarified through his actions? So we'll say, what's the case of where his intentions are clarified through his actions? Remember, what was the example of that? The katan brings the fruit up from the field to the rooftop. Ostensibly, the reason he's bringing it up is why? Insects. Once he gets there, the dew comes down on the fruit, and what does he do? He turns it over. So we'll say, that's a case of machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav. Clearly, the fact that he turns it over means that he wants the fruits to get wet. So he's doing a maisa, and his intentionality is being expressed ultimately through his action. So what's the case there? Machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav midoraisa in einlo midrabanan yeshlo. We will go ahead and we will say machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav works when? Works only l'chumra, but not l'kula. Will work ultimately again mid'araisa, but will not work midrabanan. So we'll say, I'll share with you an interesting Rambam here. So the Rambam brings down, this is in Hilchos Psuli HaMukdashin, Perek Aleph Halacha Vav. So listen to this interesting halacha. Katan, Listen to this. Katan eno shachit kachim afapi shagadol omeid al gabav. Shakatan shakachim tzrichim machshava v'katan eno machshava. So we'll say, so first of all, again, the Rambam brings down that again, as opposed to yesterday, we demonstrated in yesterday's daf, that shchita does not require kavana. Right, we established that. Kachim, karbanos, absolutely do require kavana. So because of that, a katan cannot shecht kachim, even if there's a gadol omid al gabav. Right, so we'll say, technically speaking, you could have a katan do a shchita as long as there's an adult watching him from beginning to end. Katan can't shecht kachim because kachim require kavana. So listen to this. I'm sorry, because kavana machshava and a katan doesn't have machshava. Afilu haisa, listen to this Rambam. Afilu haisa machshavto nukeres mitoch masav. Ein machshava lahakil al lahachmir. We'll say, that's how we paskin. Even if the katan's machshava is demonstrated through his actions, the carbon is still not good. Because we'll only say that machshavto nikeres misoch ma'asav is good midrabanon, but not daraisa. Only lahachmir, but not lahakil. Ketzad, so he gives the example. Here we go. Haisa ola omedes bedarom umashcha katan ve'vi letzafon. The ola was standing in the south, and what happens? And the katan goes ahead and brings it to the north. I'm sorry, just the opposite. Right. We're standing in the south. The katan brought it to the north. Ushachta shaymaisav nikar shemachshavta l'shchitas kachim harezu psula. So we'll say, so there you have it. The Rambam paskins that halacha lamaisa again in the case of machshavta nikeres misoch ma'asav, we will allow that to work midrabanon, i.e. l'chumra, but will not allow it to work d'oraisa. Good, beautiful. This next case, this is actually amazing. This was the last Gemara in Meseches Menachos. Incredible. By the way, make your reservations for the Siyum. Hey, so Gemara says, Minad Misasik Bekachim, Shu Pasal. So it is really amazing. So how do we know that Misasik Bekachim is Pasal? How do we know that if a person, say, remember, this actually is a wonderful say, because the Rambam just said that you need Kavana for Kachim. So how do we know that ultimately Misasik Bekachim is Pasal? So we'll say, the case of Misasik is that halacha lamaisa. We'll say, let's use yesterday's case. Right? Remember yesterday's dramatic knife throwing case? So halacha lamaisa, if I'm an expert knife thrower, and there happen to also be an expert knife thrower who's able to do a shchita while throwing knives, the halacha is the shchita works. That will not work by karbanos. Because we'll say by karbanos, that's called misasik. Misasik means I'm engaged in a different act other than shchita. See, we'll say a regular shchita makes no difference if I even have in mind to do knife throwing. It just happens to be that while I'm throwing the knife, it happens to do a shchita. That shchita could still be fine, could still be kosher. By kachim, the halach is a person has to have kavana. So how do I know that misasik b'kachim is going to be possible? Shneimar, the shachat as ben abakar. Bless you, because the pasuk says you shall shecht the ben abakar. Shete shchita l'shem ben bakar. Teaches me that the shchita has to be done for the sake of the ben bakar. Amrlo, zubi adenuhi la'akiv minayah. I'm not asking. I know that you have to do shchita l'shma. I'm asking, how do I know that if you didn't do it, it invalidates the shchita, that it's ma'akev? So Talmud Omar lirtzonchem tizbechuhu ledatchem zevochu, because we'll say the pasuk says lirtzonchem, according to for your will you shall offer it ledatchem zevochu. It means again you must offer it with proper das. Your das there must be proper das intact in order to go ahead and offer it. Good. Mishnah. We'll say here we go. Weiter. Shchitas ovid kochavim nevela umentama b'masam. So we'll say, so therefore halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa, shchitas kachim requires kavana, but ultimately, again, regular shchita does not. Weiter. Shchitas ovid kochavim. We'll say the shchita of an akum is a nevela, ultimately, again, has the status of an animal that just died on its own. Umetama b'masa. And therefore, again, we'll say halacha l'maisa, it conveys tuma through carrying. To which the Gemara says, interesting, nevela in isser hana lo. Now we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that the shchita of a guy, ultimately of an akum, we'll call it, ultimately again is an avela, but yet what? It's not asur ba'ana. Now also remember again, what does an avela mean? So an avela means I can't eat it, but I can sell it, right? I can feed it to my animals, in other words, I can get benefit from it. So it's interesting, says the Gemara. Mantana, whose opinion is this? Amr Rabbi Rabbi Abba, Amr Rabbi Yochanan. This is actually a fascinating sugya. Amr Rabbi Yochanan, Delo Rabbi Eliezer. it does not reflect the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Why? What does Rabbi Eliezer say? The Rabbi Eliezer ha'amar stam machshavas ovid avodas ovid stam machshavas ovid kochavim la'avodas kochavim. Wow. Shabbos said this. I told you it's dramatic. I want to make this stuff up. Shabbos says, listen to this, because Rabbi Eliezer says that a run-of-the-mill akum, when he shechts an animal, has in mind for what? For his idolatry. Now, both say, if an akum has in mind for his idolatry, that categorizes his offering as takroves avodas kochavim, which then says what? That it's asher ba'ano. So both say, so the Gemara just says, it's interesting, the Mishnah says that if a stam akum shechts, obviously it's not going to be kosher, it'll be an avela. Okay, an avela, fine, I can't eat it, but I can have benefit from it. So this doesn't reflect the view of Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer says that a stam oved kochavim, when he shechts, has in mind for his avodah zora. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Ami Amar, hachi katani, shchitas oved avodas oved kochavim, nevelei. So we'll say, so we understand over here that stam shchita of an oved kochavim, a run-of-the-mill akum, we could assume that when he does a regular shchita, he's doing it for his own purposes, not for avodah zara purposes. Therefore, again, it's an avela. Had min la'avodas kochavim. They will say, but yes, if the shchita was done by a min, so we'll say, so what's a min? Look at Rashi for just a moment. 3 lines up from the bottom of Rashi. Shchitas min, the Yisrael, the kol came to ovid kochavim. So b'vahamas nisem mi abi Yisrael kaim. I'm supposed to listen to this. A min is someone who is a very frum oved avodah zara. Right? So we'll say, so man is like he's a stark over the avodah zara. So the lashon of Chazal is aduk ba'avodah zara. He's attached. So we'll say, so this is very interesting. So an akum is a general term for people who worship idolatry. A min is someone who's an exceptionally pious idolater. So the Gemara says something amazing over here. Rabbi Ami says, what it means to say is like this. The shchit of an oved kochavim, stam shchit of oved kochavim, you could assume that what? That it's for non-idolatrous purposes. Therefore, Allah Chalamai says status of an avela. It's true in conveys tumah, but we'll say, but that's not what's worrying us right now. For our purposes, it's an avela. But the shchita of a min, now we'll say, now here's the incredible chiddush. A min could be an akum, but a min nebach could also be a Jew. Meaning, it doesn't matter the religion, it doesn't matter the origin of the min. The min is someone who is aduk ba'avodah zara. He's attached, he's passionate, he's pious about his idolatry. Whether Jew or non-Jew, a person like that, whenever he shechts, we always have in mind, we assume that what? His intention is always for who? For his avodah zara. And therefore, his shchita will in fact always be asar b'hana. So the Gemara says, Tanin lahadatan rabbanan, we have a price that supports this. Shchitas min la'avodas kochavim. The shchita of a min, Rabbosai. Now, this happens to be referring to a Jew who is a min. The shchita of a min, ultimately, again, is always assumed to be for his Rabbosai. I want to tell you the novelty in this. The novelty in this is, obviously, if you see him shechting in front of his idol, that's one thing. The Gemara is saying more. We assume that every single time he slaughters, he has in mind for his idolatry. Even if it's for his dinner, we still assume that he has in mind for his idolatry. Therefore, again, his shechita will always be asher ba'ana. Pito paskusi. Ultimately, again, his bread has the status of paskusi. Yeno yayin nesach. His wine has the status of yayin nesach. We'll say, watch this. Svarav sifrei kosmin. I will say, if he goes ahead and he writes books, even books of Torah, Rashi says, Torah Nevi'im Uksuvin, ultimately, literally, we treat them as books of incantations, i.e., his Sfarim have absolutely no Kiddusha. But remember, again, this is expressed even more dramatically by the Gemara that says that if a min writes a Sefer Torah, you burn that Sefer Torah. We do not assume that he has any proper intentions with any Sfarim or anything that he writes. Peiros of Tevalin. And his Peiros, ultimately, again, are obviously Tevel. V'yeshon, Abosai, you ready for this? V'yesh Omrim, Af Banov Mamzerim. And I will say by the min, some will say that even his children are mamzerim. Now I will say, now Rashi says over here, why? So Rashi says, she'ino makbid al ishta umafkira. Because I will say, we assume that the min has no code of morality as well. And he even allows the promiscuity of his wife. V'tanakama, ishta lo mafkir. The Tanakama will say, no, we don't go that far. In other words, we'll treat him like an akum in every single regard, but we do not assume that he condones or allows the promiscuity of his wife, and therefore we don't treat his children as mamzerim. Amar Mar. So we'll say, here we go. So therefore, I will say what comes out of here is something really dramatically amazing. We have on one hand the shchita of the akum, which is treated like the nevela, and the shchita of the min, which is going to be treated mamish like takroves avodah zara, which means that it will be aser ba'ana. Says the Gemara. Amar Mar. Shchita savodah oved kochavim nevela. The shchita of an oved kochavim is an avela. The nechush shema min. We'll both say this. By the way, get ready for this Gemara. It is absolutely amazing. I don't understand. Why don't you assume that a stam akum is a min? Right? See, we'll say this is fascinating because the truth is we've never really seen this type of distinction before in the akum community. Right? We assume the akum is an akum is an akum. Now we're saying it's not true. There's an akum, there's a min. An akum shrita is an avela. A min's shrita is going to be avodah zara. Why don't you make the assumption that a stam akum is min? Get ready for this. Amar Rav Nachman Rav 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 says amazing. Ein minin bu'umos ovdei kochavim. The truth is, in the nations of the world, the ovdei kochavim, they're not really minin. They're not really minin. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? V'halka chazinan di'ika. That's not true. We see that there are plenty of meaning amongst the akums of the world. Tzros is amazing. Ema ein rov ovdei kochavim meaning. Rather, the Gemara says this: we don't assume the majority of akums, right? The majority of the akum community, they're not really meaning. They're not really so attached to their avodah zara. Listen to this: Savra la kiyad amar Rabbi Bar Abba amar Rabbi Yochanan nachrim shebechutz la'aretz. Lav ovdei avodas kochavim hein. I will say, the Gentiles of Chutz La'aretz, they're not really ovid avodas kochavim, and laminag avosein biyadehen. I will say, they're not so frum. They kind of only show up Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? There's like a couple of days here they come to the temple. So I will say, what's amazing here is as follows. The Gemara is saying is, in the Akum community, we're making the assumption that the majority of people who we normally categorize as ovdei avodas kochavim are not really active ovdei avodas kochavim. In other words, when they check the religion box, which box do they check? Akum. Of course they check Akum. But at the end of the day, they're not aduk. They're not aduk. They're not attached to it. They're not holding on to it. It's not like there's a fiery passion of idolatry burning in their hearts. And I both say this is incredibly important because what that means is that's why we could say that we don't assume that their stam everyday shchita is for avodah zarah. Now, I was saying, now it's interesting to note over here, as you see, at least historically, that the akums of Eretz Yisrael were apparently frummer than their diaspora counterparts, right? So the akums in Chutz La'aretz, the Gemara understands, were not as aduk in their avodah zarah, which again, it's very interesting to see. So this, no. Is everybody too many latkes last night? What's going on over here? I'll say this is like, I'm telling you, this like changes everything. We've always looked at akums as a group, and we've always assumed that the status of the group is uniform. Now we're beginning to see that is actually not the case. That within the akum community there are distinctions. There's the akum community and there's the min community within the akum community, and I must say a dramatic distinction between them. So the Gemara says, Amar Yosef Ramin Yumi, Amar Rav Nachman. So we'll say, so okay. So now, therefore again, the distinction we have at this moment is the shchita of an akum will be treated like an avela, can't eat it obviously, conveys tuma b'masa, but totally mutter ba'anda. The shchita of a min, on the other hand, will be assumed for avodas kochavim. Now watch this. Next case, Amar Nachman. So I'm sorry, Amar Rav Yosef Bar Yumi, Amar Rav Nachman. Ein minin ba'umos ovdei kochavim. So we'll say it's a very cryptic statement. We do not confer a status of minin on the nations of the world. So what does that mean? So the Gemara says, Lamai, ilay shchita. If you want to say for shchita, that's what? That stam shchita of a min who's an akum is not aser ba'ana. That doesn't make sense. Hashta shchitas min di Yisrael amrit asira de ovdei kochavim ibai. So we'll say if there's a Jew who's a min, his shchita is going to be aser. Of course, all the more so if you have an akum who is a min, his shchita is going to be aser. Ella lemoridin. I will say this is actually a very interesting halacha. If you look at Rashi Moridin, Rashi says Babar Darmina be'in ma'amidin haminin Moridin osan lebar. I will say the halacha is you're allowed to push a min into a well. I will say I have to understand the back. Don't be so quick like to apply this. I see. This is not halacha l'maisa. I will say so. Again, what's interesting about this is as follows. Remember, we saw this in Avodah Zarah that also historically, the minin also represented incredible trouble for Klal Yisrael. So therefore, again, there is this concept that under certain circumstances, you could remove him from the equation. So we'll say, right, I have a guy. Right, so you can remove him from the equation. So let's listen to this. So the Gemara says, Hashta di Yisrael moridin, so I'll say, if you can unfortunately even remove a Yisrael who's a min, so certainly you can remove an Akum who's a min. So what does it mean when we say that ein minos la'ovdei kochavim? Amrav ukva bar chama, lekaba mehen karban. What it means, I will say, this is dramatically amazing as well. It means in terms of accepting a karban from a min who is an akum. Now, I will say, we're about to learn something mamish mind-blowing. The halacha is that you are allowed to, remember again, we accept karbanos from non-Jews as well. You are allowed to accept a karban in the Beis HaMikdash, even from an akum who is a self-proclaimed min. Even if mamish is a min, you can accept a karban from him. Now watch this. This Sanya, get ready. Mikem, well, so we actually had this drasha a few days ago. Mikem v'lo kulchem. So we'll say the pasuk says, Dabra b'nei Yisrael marta aleim adam ki yakriv miken karban la'Hashem. So we'll say, so the halacha is that a Jew is permitted to go out and bring a karban. Mikem v'lo kulchem. Ultimately, again, there are those from among you, but not all of you. So we'll say what that means is, not all Jews are allowed to bring karbanos. Lahotzias hamumar. Both say a Yisrael mumar, right, who is a Jew who flagrantly violates the halacha, is not permitted to. We do not accept his karbanos. Mikem. So we'll say, listen to this. Bachem chalakti v'lov de obichan. We'll say this is wild. Because Baruch Hu says, by the way, I only make this distinction with Jews, not with Gentiles. Which means I will say, with Jews, there are some Jews who can bring karbanos, some Jews who can't. With non-Jews, every single non-Jew's karban is accepted. So we'll say, mimai. How do you know this? Maybe this is what it means. Mi Yisrael, mi tzadikei kabel merishay lo sekabel. Maybe what it means as follows: by Jews, maybe you should only accept karbanos from tzadikim, but not from Rishonim. Aval me'ovdei kochavim klalo. Maybe from an akum, I shouldn't accept their karbanos at all. To which the Gemara says, Lo sakadai tchadisanye ish ma tamulomar ish. L'rabos ha'ovdei kochavim shenodrim nedarim unedavos keisa. So both say this is absolutely amazing. The Mikem teaches us that karbanos are not accepted from all Jews. If a Jew Nebuch is a mummer, we will not accept his karban. That distinction only applies by Jews. When it comes to Gentiles, it will say, whether the Gentile is an akum, he's a min, he's whatever he is, if he sends a karban to the Beis HaMikdash, ultimately what? We go ahead and we accept it. I will say that's the meaning of the statement of ein minin bu'umos ovdei kochavim. There is no minos by the Gentile, by the nations. I will say means that if there's a Jew who's a min, you can't accept his karban. But by the umos, by the ovdei kochavim, even if there's a min, you could still accept his. Nice, incredible. Let's remember what the next part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that if the akum shechts a karban, ultimately what? It is considered to be an avela, and therefore mitzame b'masa pshita. The Gemara says it's obvious. Kevan den aveli mitzame b'masa. Both say, so isn't that one and the same? Once you tell me that it's an avela, then it's a tai b'masa. Amarava hachikatani. This is what it means to say. It's actually interesting as well. Zum mitzame b'masa. What it means to say is as follows. This animal is metame b'masa. In other words, this nevel is metame b'masa. But there is another type of offering by an akum, which is metame ba'ohel. We'll say, what's the type of offering by that is metame ba'ohel? Ve'ezo zutak roves avodas kochavim. And we'll say this ultimately refers to what? This refers to an avodah zara offering. That if an avodah, we'll say if an akum offers up an animal for avodah zara, this is actually amazing. That animal not only is it asher b'ana, we'll say, but what? It actually conveys tumas ohel. Then we'll say, why is that dramatically amazing? What normally conveys tumas ohel? a mace, right? A corpse. So the offering of Avodah Zarah has the status of a corpse and transmits tumas all. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So we'll listen to this. And like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, we'll see Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says in just a moment. Others have an alternate version of this. This is what it means to say. This animal, i.e. the one shechted by the akum, that becomes an Avodah Tameh Masa. Which one is this, Rabosai? Zutak avodas kochavim udelok Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Ultimately, again, and not in accordance with the position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Because what did Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira say? Desanyo Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Minagin letak roves avodas kochavim shemitame ba'ohel. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, how do I know that an offering to avodah zarah ultimately transmits tumas ohel? Rabbi has the ability to mitame anything that is standing under the same roof as it. Shene'emar vayitzmedu lebal par vayochlu zivche mesim. Rabbi when speaking about the avodah zarah bal par, it says, and they ate from the corpses of the dead. So Rabbi says, you see from here that what? That offerings to avodah zarah are compared to corpses. Ma mace mitame ba'ohel, just as ultimately again a mace conveys tumas ohel. Af takroves avovde avodas kochav mitame. So the offering of avodah zarah also conveys tumas ohel. What happens to be, we do not pass like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, although again, so we will pass in. So we'll say what we have over here is as follows: stam shchita of an akum who is not a min. What's the status of that shchita? Nevela and metame b'masa. The shchita of a min, or for that matter, any shchita that is explicitly for avodah zarah, will be aser ba'ana, but we do not pass like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, i.e., it does not go ahead and convey tumas ohel. But also, let's just finish up the daf. Hashochit balayla, if one shechts at night, v'chein hasuma sheshachat, or if a blind person shechts, shchita sukshera. Ultimately, again, his shchita is kosher. So we'll say incredible halach. Now, obviously, we'll say the case of the summa only works if what? Obviously, if someone's standing over him, right? There's a mashkiach who's there. So shechting at night or a summa the shechita, because says the Gemara, hashochet the eved in lechatchila lo. Now, both say to say hashochet balayla v'china summa. This sounds like hashok. Both say lashon of hashochet is always lashon of b'di'eved, ex post facto, right? You already did it. Once you already did it, ultimately the shechita is going. So we're focusing much more on night. So it sounds like b'di'eved you could shecht at night, but lechatchila you shouldn't. Or mini liolim shochtin maybe on b'malayla. We'll see this Gemara later on. You're always permitted to shecht by day and by night on the top of a roof or a boat. We'll discuss the roof in both cases later. But for our purposes, what do you see from here? That even l'chatchila you're permitted to shecht at night. So what's going on over here? Rav Papa kishavuka kinegdo. Rav Papa says yes, you could shecht at night when there's a torch lit. In other words, when you have light. When you have light, then you could shecht even l'chatchila at night. When you don't have light, then ideally l'chatchila you shouldn't shecht at night. But b'di'eved if you did and the shechita was good, the shechita is kosher. Rav Ashi dikanami diktani. Rav Ashi, as we gave him proof in the Mishnah, diktani asam dumya deyom v'achal dumya desuma. And I will say you can even see it. Our Mishnah compares shechita at night to which case? To the shechita of a blind person. Just like the shechita of a blind person says, quote unquote, done without light. So to our Mishnah's case of shechita done at night is done without light. Therefore, the Mishnah says the chatchili you shouldn't do it, but b'di'eved if you did it, it works. Masha'enki in the other Mishnah that the Gemara quoted said the olam shochtim bein bayom u bein ba'layla. It's comparing the case of layla to the case of yom. Just like yom there's light, so to layla there's night. What's the case where there's an avuka? And if there's light, you can even check lechatchila at night.